Welcome back, YouTube. It's been a while since I've actually made a video, and that's only because of the fact that there hasn't actually really been much NBA news. Well, I guess up until today. Donovan Mitchell is now a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and oh boy, this was something that I don't think anyone was really expecting. Honestly, I really thought before training camp even started that Donovan Mitchell was going to be a Knick next to Jalen Brunson and newly maxed out RJ Barrett, but obviously that's not the case now. The deal did look kind of dead, especially once RJ kind of signed his max deal with the Knicks, but there were reports about a potential of there being still a chance that Donovan Mitchell could make it onto the Knicks. It's just a little more complicated now that RJ has that extension. And there were like so many other rumors, like the Lakers being involved with a sort of Knicks deal, and then the Wizards actually wanting in on him as well. But I guess the Cavs were the ones who pretty much scooped Spida up. Now that I think about it, now that he's in Cleveland with Garland, what's the name? Because it can't be Sexland anymore. Is it like Mitchland, Donoland? Like what is it? What are they planning to do? I know that Darius Garland tweeted out like right after the trade 10 in Spida, so maybe it's Spida 10, 10 Spida. Spida 10 actually sounds way better. Spider 10, I don't know. But anyways, getting back on track, the Cavs pretty much ended up trading Colin Sexton on a 4-year, $72 million sign-in trade. Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji. I still don't know how to say that guy's name. He's the rookie. He's one of the rookies that the Cavs, I think they drafted him in the first round this year. They also threw in 3 unprotected firsts and 2 pick swaps. So pretty much they got 5 picks out of the Cavs for Donovan Mitchell, which is, if you look at the Jazz now, they got 5 for Rudy. They pretty much got 5 for Donovan Mitchell. They're pretty much stacked at the first round picks, or at least they're stacked in the picks department for the future. Honestly, kind of looking at it, despite the fact that this does pretty much boost the Cavs into playoff contention, well, not playoff contention, but it pretty much boosts the Cavs into actually being a solidified playoff team instead of being like a play-in team. I'm actually really not sure how I feel about this trade. Like, don't get me wrong, this trade was actually pretty good for both sides, but also at the same time, there are a few questions that I have, especially on the Cavaliers side of things rather than the Utah Jazz side of things. And honestly, I think the main concern that I have with this trade is the fact that Cleveland is going back to a small guard lineup. If anything, actually their starting lineup, if we project it correctly, is pretty much going to shrink because Lauri Markkanen is not going to run the 3 anymore for them. And I've never actually been a big fan of like the smaller backcourts. The only one that I was really a big fan of was Dame and CJ, but obviously Dame and CJ aren't together anymore, and Garland and Sexton were like, they're both like what, 6'1", and now you replace Sexton with Donovan Mitchell, who, mind you, Colin Sexton is a good player, but Donovan Mitchell is a completely different player, like a completely different level of player. Not saying that it's bad that they have Donovan Mitchell, but I think it's just kind of weird that they went from a 6'1" and 6'6" with Caris LeVert kind of replacing Colin Sexton while he was injured, to now going back to having 2 6'1" guards. Yeah, pretty much the Cavs did run a little bit bigger towards the end of the season, having Garland at the 1, having LeVert at the 2, Lauri at the 3, Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen as the 4 and 5. But like, obviously now that they got rid of Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen, now looks like their backcourt and front courts kind of get a little smaller, I guess. Also, I think the biggest disappointing thing about this trade is the fact that we're actually not going to get to see Colin Sexton be a potential 6th man of the year coming off the bench for Cleveland. Because honestly, with the acquisition of Caris LeVert, I thought that they were going to just run the same lineup, but pretty much have Colin Sexton come off the bench as a 6th man, kind of like a spark plug. Because, you know, he's kind of in that like Jordan Clarkson, Jordan Poole kind of mode where he's pretty much like this guy that's going to chuck shots up. I'm not saying that he is a shot chucker, which no, you know what? No, yeah, I am kind of saying that he is a shot chucker, and he's pretty effective at it, and he scored pretty highly, at least. If you look at his numbers in his last healthy season before he tore his ACL, or was it meniscus, one of the two, last year, he averaged around like 24 points. He was shooting like 37% from 3, and he was shooting like 47 from the field. So if that's not like a guy that I would love to have as a spark plug off the bench, Jordan Clarkson, Jordan Poole, just like I said, then like, dang, like I'm really gonna miss not being able to see that, or at least, you know, it's kind of disappointing that I don't get to see that. He's a guy that pretty much could handle the ball with a second unit and pretty much get buckets, and I think that's actually like the perfect role for him. But what I will say that I really did like about this trade is that having Donovan Mitchell there kind of solidifies the Cavs and their young core that they have currently. Garland had a breakout year last year. Evan Mobley was actually my rookie of the year, despite the fact that Scotty Barnes pretty much won it, which, yeah, props to him, he won it. But I think if Evan Mobley didn't get injured towards the end, maybe he would have been able to win it. I don't really know. That's just me rambling. And they also have Jared Allen, who's like one of the best pick and roll players with Darius Garland, and just, you know, a nice shot blocker, good lob threat. And yeah, like they really, with Donovan Mitchell being there now, they really have solidified like this nice young core. And I think the big plus side about those guys that I just mentioned is the fact that they're young. So it's like, you know, the draft picks that they gave up, which I think are like within the next like 5 years or something, or in the next 5 years or something like that, they'll be completely fine. Because like, honestly, if you have these guys and you're planning to keep them, especially because you've got like Evan Mobley, you can keep it for at least like the next like what, 7-8 years, something like that. Like, and you've got Garland locked up. Donovan Mitchell, I'm pretty sure, is only in like the 2nd or 3rd year of his contract. Jared Allen still has like 3 more years left. I mean, like, the Cavs are still gonna look pretty good. These aren't gonna be like 30th overall picks, but they'll probably be somewhere like within like the late 20s, or like, you know, like late teens, pretty much like 9th, like probably they're not going to be lottery picks, obviously. However, I think the one thing that is so suspect about Donovan Mitchell, and it really didn't help that last year he didn't play any of this, but it's the man's defense. Like, ever since he entered the league, he just has not been a good defender. And I mean, like, I don't know if it's because of the fact that he kind of had to be the man in Utah, where he was the main scoring offensive weapon. Yeah, they brought in Mike Conley, but like Mike Conley he's not like a big scoring guy. Yeah, he can score, but like, you know, he was like a playmaking defensive type of guard, not a scoring guard. And like, yeah, Rudy was literally just, I mean, Rudy was defensive player of the year for like what, 3,000 years in a row. So like, obviously the offense had to come from someone. And with a nice young guard in DG, Darius Garland, I think the scoring load is definitely going to be, you know, taken off his shoulders a bit, because you've got DG there. You've got Karis LeVert, who can also play, who can also score. He can handle the ball too as well. Like, Donovan Mitchell also has improved his playmaking, which, you know, props to him, because I've always thought that he was kind of a static player ever since like his sophomore year. After like, you know, his rookie year, his sophomore year, I thought he didn't really change anything, but his playmaking has really improved. He's got Evan Mobley, who is literally like one of the best, like one of the best dudes to have in that front court, especially next to Jared Allen, those twin towers. Like, I really am liking this Cavs team the more and more that I'm actually talking about Donovan Mitchell being there. But I do think, because of the fact that, you know, they gave up Colin Sexton, they gave up Lauri Markkanen, they gave up Ochai Agbaji. I hope I'm saying that right. Please, comment section, if you can, please correct me, because I don't know how to say this man's name, or at least I don't think that I'm saying it correctly. But like, I feel like with those guys pretty much being gone, once February hits and the trade deadline is kind of around the corner, and let's say the Cavs are like what they were, like they're like a 4th seed, kind of like how they were around this time last year before like all of the injuries started hitting them. Like, what's gonna happen when they try to get someone? Because they don't really have like much depth to give up in order to get like, you know, that key piece to kind of like, you know, help them solidify their place, like maybe like 5th or like 4th in the standings anymore. Kevin Love's only getting older. Jetty Osman is just an all right of a player. Same with Dean Wade. Dean Wade is actually a pretty decent player, I would say, or at least, you know, from what I've seen from him, I like him a lot, or at least I like him. But let's be real, the only guy on the roster that actually has value that they would probably be willing to trade is Isaac Okoro. But like, even then, like, how much is he gonna get you? He's pretty much kind of like Matisse Thybulle in a way, where you don't really want him to shoot, and he plays really good defense, and plus he's young. But he's the only valuable piece that I could see them actually letting go, because Garland, Mitchell, maybe LeVert, they might be able to turn into something. Evan Mobley's there to stay. Jared Allen, I don't see you moving him either. So like, Isaac Okoro is kind of the odd man out when it comes to, you know, the trade assets, even though like they don't really have very much other than him, I guess. And I don't think just him alone is enough to get something by the trade deadline. So maybe we'll just see what happens in February, I guess. By the way, if you guys have actually made it this far into the video, please consider hitting the like button and also hitting subscribe, because, you know, it helps the channel a lot. Also, don't forget to hit the bell if you do hit subscribe, because, you know, it helps you see when I am uploading new content. And I do have new content coming on the way. I'm in the middle of scripting a video as I actually am doing this video, so I mean, look out for that content. And yeah, it would just really help the channel a lot, and you know, it just shows your support. Looking at the Jazz's side of things, honestly, Danny Ainge doing the 2 trades with having Rudy Gobert go to the Minnesota Timberwolves and having Donovan Mitchell go to the Cavs, like, honestly, he's actually set the Utah Jazz up for a pretty bright future, I would say. They were basically able to get 10 draft picks from basically Donnie and Rudy, and also getting like a guy in Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, which I hope I said correctly this time, Jared Vanderbilt, Walker Kessler, Talon Horton Tucker from the Lakers, I completely forgot about that. Honestly, they got some really solid pieces that I could see being kind of the big core of this team. So that way, you know, in a couple of years, they can potentially contend for like the play-in or even make it back into the playoffs. There are also still guys like Jordan Clarkson, Bojan Bogdanovic, Mike Conley, who are still on the team that I'm assuming that they're most likely going to end up flipping anyways. And honestly, I think if they do flip those guys and clean house and they're able to get like, you know, really nice young assets, then they've pretty much like, you know, solidified themselves as in like, you know, being able to get themselves back into the playoffs. And I mean, Danny Ainge has always been, I guess, pretty decent when it comes to actually building teams. However, I do feel like the amount of draft equity that he's had, especially in his years in Boston, has been very questionable. So I do wonder what is going to happen with those picks, if they do plan on keeping them or not, because it feels like Danny Ainge doesn't really know how to draft, especially when he has so many pieces. And like, plus, I don't want them to get into that whole I don't want him to recreate the Boston Celtics here, where he drafts a bunch of, or like a few really good guys, and then like he just drafts a bunch of dudes that don't really have a place on the team, and you don't really know what to do with them anymore, like after you've drafted them, and they don't really like, you know, they don't work out to what their potentially could have been because of the amount of players that they have. I guess OKC might kind of have that same problem as well. But also, I do feel like the draft is the only way for Utah to kind of build themselves back into a contender, or at least back into a playoff team, because if you think about it, what big free agent has actually gone to Utah and been like, I'm gonna go sign here? Because I don't really know any. It feels like pretty much every person that has been on that team has either been traded there or drafted there. And I will say they do make some pretty nice draft day trades. Like they were able to get Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert on draft day, and they weren't even their picks. I'm pretty sure they actually took both of those guys from the Nuggets. They traded with the Nuggets. So I guess if you want a good player, just trade with the Nuggets, Jazz. Just like how you did for your, I guess, last two core guys that you had on the team. But as long as Danny Ainge, you know, he's able to draft smartly and kind of get rid of picks kind of the way that OKC and the Knicks have pretty much gotten rid of their picks. And I think Detroit, I don't remember who. There's another team that has been like stacking draft picks and getting rid of them just so, you know, they know what they're doing later on in the future, or at least like, you know, they have a better plan on what to do with their rosters. As long as the Utah Jazz and Danny Ainge can do that, then I see success for them, or at least I can see them making it back into the playoffs within the next, like, what, 5 years, which is when a lot of those picks are going to come out, and they're probably not going to be worth very much to the Timberwolves or the Cleveland Cavaliers. I almost forgot what team got Donovan Mitchell got traded there for a second. Oh my god. But yeah, honestly, I think that's pretty much gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. What do you guys think of this Donovan Mitchell trade? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Honestly, I came into this video kind of not really liking it, but the more I started talking about it, I think I'm a little more like 60-40. 60 I like it, 40 I don't like it. But like, by the time that the season starts and we get, like, I would say into like January, February, probably mostly January, maybe February, we'll kind of see what the potential of this team is and kind of what the ceiling of this team is. I hope they do really well, because I really did love watching the Cavs last year. That's kind of weird to say that, like, you know, you watch the Cavs when LeBron is no longer there, but Darius Garland, Colin Sexton when he was there, like Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, those guys are kind of the reason why I really watched, and I'm a really big fan of those guys. And you know, I'm rooting for all of them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what your guys' opinion on the trade is down below. I will be coming out with a top 10 point guard list very, very soon. I'm in the middle of scripting that, and I'm going to make my way from point guards to centers, and then I will be starting another 30 for 30. Hopefully this time I won't get sick, and I will be doing it 2K style, so we will see how that goes. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.